Hello, I'm Sammie Purcell, Associate Editor with Rough Draft Atlanta, and I'm here as always with my co-host Aaron Strand. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Sammy. I'm doing all right, hanging in there. It's getting ready to be a busy August, so kind of like it's got like in typical independent artist life. I feel like I have like 15 plates spinning in the air, and my every day as I wake up and see which one's wobbling the worst, and I just start spinning, and that's my whole day. It's exhausting, living the dream. Love it. How are you?
I'm good. I am gearing up for a fun weekend. I'm going to see The Sound of Music at the Fox this weekend. It's a sing-along. So I'm pretty excited for that. That movie means a lot to me and my childhood, so it'll be fun.
Yes,
and it's like
that's awesome.
Packed out. So usually I feel like when you go see movies there, you don't have to buy a particular seat, at least for the Coca-Cola film series. But they made us do that, and it is packed. So exciting stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. Well, welcome to Crash Zoom. If this is your first episode with us, what Aaron and I do here is we talk about the film industry, what's going on from a big picture level, and try to boil down why that matters to the independent artist. And if you listen today and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can watch us on YouTube at Crash Zoom Podcast. Be sure to rate and review too. That really helps us out. So this episode, we are talking Netflix. It's been a while. We're going to talk about Netflix. So Netflix has reported really great earnings for their second quarter. So this is a quote from The Hollywood Reporter. In its second quarter earnings report, the streaming giant disclosed operating income of $3.8 billion and a margin of 34.1%, up double digits from a year ago. And they're also forecasting revenue for this year, I believe, of about $11.5 billion. So this article it goes on to sort of discuss the, profit forecast of Netflix, but it's also talking about Netflix versus YouTube, which is sort of what I am most interested in, I would say. So we've talked about YouTube's prowess, kind of, up and coming streaming service, I guess, over the course of this podcast. At least when it comes to streaming.
What?
Well, you know what I mean? Like, as far as like becoming, you know what I mean? Not at up and coming. I know I want to say it again because that's not what I meant. But like,
up and coming.
That's not what I meant.
I think. Well, what I've always taken it as is because yes, it is sort of new within this conversation of streaming services.
That is what I'm talking about.
But it's mostly a byproduct of them only recently being factored into the Nielsen gauge as a streaming player, right?
Yes. So at least when it comes to streaming was the end of that sentence. But this does seem to be the big fight. It's like Netflix versus YouTube. And I was kind of looking at this New York Times article from July 12th, which kind of more heavily dives into it's called the streaming wars, comes down to two, YouTube versus Netflix. I might talk about some of that as we sort of get into these numbers, but I'll end it there. What do you think about Netflix? What do you think about their profit surging?
It's just so great just that, they just make so much money making so many great shows and movies that I just love to watch. Loved the new Medea. I think she was in Hawaii.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I loved the number one movie on Netflix, which is, what is it? K-pop Battle Demons or something. Yeah. Netflix just keeps going along, doing its thing, dominating the competition, and doing it while just making absolute garbage at every step of the way. That's honestly how I feel about it. Now, about their revenue. So Netflix their revenue has increased every quarter for the last 6 quarters. It's a pretty moving up and to the right thing. So they're crushing it. Now, it's interesting to note that as soon as they came out with their earnings report for Q2, that the stock popped for a second and then precipitously dropped as people started looking into the numbers. So, and it is this overall, there is an illusion happening within the American stock market more than anything right now that I do find really interesting, which is that the reason why Netflix's earnings looked to be so high has more to do with the weakening of the US dollar than it does with Netflix really sort of making more than they did in Q1 or Q4 from the previous year. The dollar is off to its weakest start since 1971. As the dollar goes down, any company that is continuing to be profitable or to increase sales a little bit, those sales are looking that much bigger because of the dollar's weakness is like inflating the number of their domestic earnings. The same thing is happening to Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is reaching all-time highs in the US dollar sense, but they're barely getting back to their previous all-time high when compared to the euro market. So it's this weird sort of optical illusion that the dollar's weakness is playing on us as investors or potential investors. Now, that's not to say that Netflix is losing money by any means. They are still incredibly profitable. But some of these like absolutely gangbuster numbers that they're putting out here do have a slight there's a disorienting effect of the US dollar's weakness.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, it's interesting to me how every article that I've read about this particular like surge, I guess, like immediately kind of pits them up against YouTube. And I guess like they are kind of the only two that are like within in any conversation with each other at all, right? Like as far as success, like this New York Times article that I mentioned up top, like it was very funny. Like they'll talk about sort of like Netflix execs, and it was some unnamed executive, I think, but he was essentially like, yeah, like they don't give a shit what's going on at Apple. They don't give a shit what's going on at HBO. Like the only thing they really care about is YouTube. And that's sort of a new space for them to be in because, I mean, kind of like you mentioned with like Nielsen only like recently began reporting like YouTube numbers, right? So for a long time, like Ted Sarandos and the ilk would like treat YouTube sort of like as like a secondhand, like basically a redheaded stepchild, to use an outdated term, like when they talked about them, like at kind of that they didn't matter, you know. But now that like Nielsen does report this stuff, it's like every single article I read about this just sets them up in conversation with YouTube. Like that's the
I
most
think
important thing.
it's also the way that smart TVs, the technological changes, have put YouTube on television screens in a way that wasn't being adopted even 5 years ago. The pandemic really hyper scaled the adoption of YouTube onto these giant, beautiful flat screen TVs that so many people have. And that puts them in direct. That's where it's a zero sum game because you can either watch YouTube or you can either watch Netflix, and you can't do both. And so that's why Netflix has had to choose YouTube as their number one enemy as YouTube has jumped off the laptop, off the smartphone, off the desktop computer, and onto the TV screen.
Right. And I mean, they're starting to like filch creators, right? Like Miss Rachel is sort of like the biggest example, I think. But how do you, I guess, I'm curious like how that strategy will sort of like move long term for them. I think children's content is probably a good way to go just because I think like at least from like what this New York Times article kind of posits, like Netflix is sort of, and other streaming companies as well, is trying to not increase like the ultimate subscriber numbers, like, but to increase the amount of time that people actually spend watching the service. Like that's the most important thing. And I feel like, at least in my head, like pilching kind of like, or filching, I guess is the word. What am I trying to say? Pilching.
I think it's
filching.
I think it's pilching. I think filching might.
What is filching?
I think that might be an Urban Dictionary term that we don't want to look up on the show.
No, it's not. No, pilfer or steal. They are synonyms.
Filching is is pilfer or steal? You learn something new every day.
I was saying pilching, I think, but I was thinking pilfering, and then I corrected myself and said filching. Yeah.
Wow.
This is real totally fun.
This is great radio. This is great radio.
Great podcasting. Anyway, but I think like if that is their ultimate goal, sort of like we're not worried about subscribers, we're worried about eyes on screen, like children's content is the best way to sort of do that. And YouTube kind of has that like in the bag, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Netflix, I don't think is ever going to give up their producerial control. Like they believe that they have content and quality standards, and they accuse YouTube of wasting time and claim that Netflix is spending time, which funny. Is just such a whack thing. So they are going to try to make sort of eye candy, but still pretty majority lowbrow entertainment, right? Which they'll claim, they'll say, well, we try to make entertainment for everybody. Our task is so huge, and yes, we will make a show like Adolescence, which gets all the critics talking, but like that, I find that to be sort of really convenient cover for like most of their content is on a race to the bottom. They are appealing to the lowest common denominator, and they're trying to do it for as cost effectively as possible. I mean, I'm sure you saw this week, they just put out a movie with this big VFX sequence that was generated by AI. It's their first like AI generated VFX sequence that actually made it to screen, which I'm sure they will continue doing. So. I think the real question is that will that glitz, will the veneer of old Hollywood glamour that Netflix sells, will that continue to work versus the sheer volume and creative freedom that user-generated content gets to enjoy on YouTube? And
I don't think so, just because they're like, sorry to cut you off, but they're
no, please.
Limiting themselves in a lot of way. Like you said, like YouTube is open. You can find, like, I looked up a Douglas Sirk movie the other day and it was on YouTube, and I can also find my favorite podcasts on YouTube, and I can also find, like, I don't know, probably like a South Park episode on YouTube if I really, you know what I mean? Like, it has everything. And so you are, I mean, not that I like want all of my streaming services to become open like that, but you are like kind of limiting yourself, like, necessarily just by virtue of what you are. Now, Netflix like choose not to do that, or like, I guess, like, asking like someone like Miss Rachel and like trying to like lure like YouTube kind of more, I don't know if like the standard of like quality on the video is like a little higher, like trying to like lure them over there. Like, maybe that insinuates some sort of like shift they want to make in the future, but I don't know. And also, on the point of like killing time versus spending time, there's this quote in this article that made me guffaw. This quote: Mr. Sarandos also suggested that Netflix remained a platform where you pay close attention to a program, an intentional choice essentially, perhaps during prime time, whereas YouTube was a far more passive viewing experience. And I don't know if you remember this, but this is like the same, these are the same people we were talking about when we talked about how like writers were getting studio notes that were just like, make sure you explain this because people might be looking at their phones. Like, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I do think that some of their statements and some of their just outward, just their complete lies. Like some of the, we're listening to Ted Sarandos or Bella Bajaria like talk about the stuff they make, which they call content. Like, I'm trying to like, refuse to use the word.
I know,
but like that they refer to as content. They talk about it like it's like we're looking at two different things, right? Like, they're describing this really like this really valuable, important show that is, that is really like making waves, and it's just something that I never encounter in my life, and I have no desire to ever encounter it. And so, maybe it's just me as a target audience member is just like really like not the person to comment. And it's probably like why we don't even talk about Netflix that much on this show, because they just kind of go, they're like their own little ecosystem that they just keep doing their thing, right. And they just keep churning out the stuff. So,
and I guess it does have fans, like,
huge.
I don't
fans.
know, like I was at that Netflix kind of, I forget what it was called, but Geek Tweak or something like that, I think a few years ago, and like people were out and about and like knew stuff about shows that I had never heard of before in my life. So, and this is my job, so I feel like I know a lot of things. Like, absolutely.
and look, we're seeing that even though so they're no longer reporting their subscriber growth numbers on their earnings report. Telling, it's estimated that they added 5.1 net subscribers during Q2, which is lower than the analyst forecast. And it's certainly lower than the 8.05 million net subscribers that they reported in Q2 2024. So subscriber growth is definitely slowing down. There's some talk internally that they believe they can get to 400 million subscribers within the next 5 years. That's their goal. All that to say is they are shifting a strategy of how much can we squeeze out of the people that are already within the ecosystem, rather than how much more we can grow the ecosystem. And we're seeing that even in an overall economic environment where people's purchasing power is decreased, again, due to a weakening US dollar, stagnant wage growth, fears of inflation, high interest rate from the Federal Reserve. People are still choosing to keep their Netflix subscription. People are choosing to keep their Netflix subscription over other luxuries in their life. And that's just how important Netflix has become to entertainment. So, they are, I mean, there's no doubt about it. They are in an incredibly advantageous position economically. They are still the biggest buyers in Hollywood, and they have, they are spending, over $8 billion globally on content every year. But we do see a few headwinds kind of like standing in their way every now and then. It's nothing really that you can like really kind of like believe is going to like take Netflix down.
No.
But I getting back to sort of what we were talking about previously, I also see real limits to their sort of like, you can only put lipstick on a pig so much before people get tired of kissing it, right? Like, and I think that ultimately their strategy of filching talent from YouTube and then adding a little zhuzh to the production value, I don't know is necessarily a winning strategy. It does feel like putting lipstick on a pig, and I don't think their lipstick is that great.
Production value was the term I was looking for earlier. Woo, sorry, my brain is everywhere today. This is why I write. I don't speak usually. All right. You have anything else you want to say about good old Netflix, good old Teddy?
Well, one of the little byproducts. So I've already mentioned a few of the sort of headwinds that they're facing. Currency depreciation inflating their numbers. Subscriber growth slowing down. They came in second in Emmy nominations this year, behind HBO, which is like still incredible, but they have really ceded ground in most of the prestige categories, and Apple TV Plus has really come along and taken a bite out of spots that Netflix used to operate. But I'm not even sure they're really trying for that stuff anymore. I don't think they really.
It's like I don't think they really
much.
care, right? If like what they're worried about is eyes on screen, like who cares what you're watching as long as you're watching.
Care.
Yeah.
The last little headwind that I identified that I thought was a kind of funny byproduct of stuff we've talked about before is, of course, we've discussed how Netflix hates theaters. They call them an inefficient distribution system. They capitulated to Greta Gerwig, giving her a month exclusive at IMAX for the Narnia movie. And now they're apparently in talk of also giving Guillermo del Toro 2 weeks exclusive IMAX for Frankenstein later this year. This has not been officially released, but it's in the rumor mill. Now, this has led to the theater chains, and particularly as pushed by Disney, they are pissed at IMAX for giving Netflix this exclusive IMAX space when certainly Disney has their own movies that they would like to be in IMAX during that time. So now, I don't know if you saw this little nugget, Cinemark, Regal, and Marcus are talking about creating their own big screen theatrical sort of system to compete with IMAX. Whether this could actually work, I mean, they all have their sort of already like their lame like proprietary big screen sort of like environments, but they're trying to make it even bigger and better to like really compete with the IMAX brand and just sort of overall like aura. And so I don't know. I think that would be a wild thing for theater chains to throw their money at. But it would be interesting if Netflix like inadvertently set off this massive theater chain schism between IMAX and some potentially new large format screen.
What would they even do? Like,
I think it would be straight up an IMAX knockoff. I don't think
Just
they're
like
trying
the
to add
ripoff.
anything. I don't think they're trying to add like the
Just
tickler.
add more.
Yeah, or like Smello
40x all
Vision.
the time.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
man, yeah,
I
I
don't.
did see that, but
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if they have the cash flow to do that. I'll be
I
honest.
was about to
Like,
say honestly, like
they can barely pay to fix their own fucking like air conditioners. How are they
so
going to
sad.
find the money to build giant new screens? My
I don't know.
God.
I don't know. I'll be interested to see if they give Guillermo that or that the theatrical release. Jesus Lord, he's been working because he's like, I mean, the last like Pinocchio was on Netflix, and didn't he have another one that like went exclusively to Netflix? I feel like he's been kind of working with them. I guess
Yeah.
like
He's found
working
a
that
real
leverage chain, like like
he's found a real
come
partner in
on,
them. I think he's
yeah,
gonna get it, probably because I think that the movie like lends itself to that sort of
I'm
like
sure, yeah.
screen experience. But they'll probably do day and date, right? Like the like I don't even know if they'll do the 2 week exclusive. They'll probably like put it in theaters, but also like release it on Netflix that day. So it's like the
Right.
theaters is just for like the degenerates that like need to see it on a
I
big
did think
screen.
that like yeah, me. I did think that like Greta getting this sort of like theatrical exclusive. I think we talked about when it happened. Like I I'm not surprised other filmmakers are like, well, excuse me, but you know,
Sure.
like I would like to have that too, please.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and if
yeah,
anyone, Del Toro might just like have the juice to
have
sort of
some right.
to
And I'm
to
sure
to
he's played nice with them like during the past, like, you know, however. Yeah. So
yeah, 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 yeah. He's been a good
yeah.
soldier, and considering
Hmm.
that he really has sort of all the instincts of like a quote unquote more artistically minded individual. I'm sure he's put up with endless buckets of shit from
Right.
Netflix over the years. So,
Hmm.
Jesus Christ, give him the 2 weeks.
Give it to
You know what
him.
I'm
Give it
saying?
to
Give it to
him.
him. Give him the weeks. Give him the
Give
weeks.
Guillermo the weeks. I want to see Big Frankenstein. All right. You have anything else? You want to talk about what we've been watching this week?
Yeah, yeah, I could go run
Yeah.
through a few things that I've been watching. I had
All
a,
right.
a Godzilla double feature weekend with my daughter, which was pretty great. We watched Invasion of the Astro Monster on Saturday, and then on Sunday we went to the video store and rented King Kong versus Godzilla, the 1963
Ooh.
version. Did not remember that it features heavy use of brown face makeup. Did not
Oh,
remember that the Americanized version butchers the pronunciation of Hokkaido. They repeatedly call it Hokkaido in the English dub, which is so
yikes.
bad. And then it also features a scene where the two Japanese leads give an indigenous boy cigarettes because they forgot to bring candy. Which is wild. So, something for the whole family there. It really like follows the model of some of the most offensive early 60s like
Mm,
Hollywood type movies, which was pretty cringe
mm-hmm.
inducing. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be not signing up for the rewatch of King Kong versus Godzilla anytime soon. Outside of that, I watched A Thick Walled Room, Masaki Kobayashi's first film, which was really, really amazing. It was very slow, so it was hard to watch at home. I bet in theaters it would be so much better, but it was
Mm.
really, really powerful at the end. And then, of course, I went and saw Christian F. on the big screen,
Yeah.
that Videodrome screened. I mean, amazing movie. I love that movie. I worship at the feet of that movie. Withdrawal crawls in the shadow of that movie. It's hard. It's hard, like, making a movie that fills into a certain genre of like addiction films, and then just like
Right.
finding the one addiction film that's just like, wow, this film is just like perfect in every way. It's a weird mix of like, I'm humbled and somewhat relieved that just a better film exists, but like I also, it's like my competitive spirit like gets kind of
Right. You're like, oh,
reinvigorated all
damn
again.
it.
Yeah, so yeah, but I mean that movie's just incredible, and it was awesome to see it on a big screen.
Awesome.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
about you?
I saw 2001 in 70 millimeter at the Terra this weekend, which was just the best. It was so fun.
So
I'd never seen
good.
it on a big screen. It's just like
So
you're kind of
good.
like, yeah, what do I say? I don't know.
Yeah.
It rocks.
It's
But
great.
it was actually really funny. We were with someone was in the theater who I'm sure there were multiple people, but one person definitely hadn't seen it before. So the intermission, right before the intermission, it's like the lip reading scene. And it
Yeah.
went to intermission, and you just heard someone go, "Fuck." It was really fun.
Dude,
It
still
was really
hits.
great.
It still hits.
And then I also wanted to shout out, I watched Powell and Pressburger's A Matter of Life and Death for the first time recently.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so good.
Such a goodie.
Such a delight. And we watched, like, I have it on Criterion. I got the DVD because it's not streaming anywhere anymore. So I got the DVD, or at least it wasn't when I looked it up. And all the special features are so cool. Just like how much work went into like the matte paintings and the background and the way they made everything. It's just really, really, really cool. Would highly recommend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Very good.
Powell and Pressburger, those guys.
So every time I watch one, I'm like, well, maybe they were the best ever.
Yeah,
That's just
those guys
it.
knew how to make a movie.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. That's cool. Very good. Well, this has been fantastic, Sammie. Thank you so much for the conversation, as always. If you enjoyed this show at home, if you have thoughts about Netflix, you can always email us, crashzoompod@gmail.com. That's crashzoompod@gmail.com. You can check us out on Instagram and on TikTok at crashzoompodcast. And we would love to hear from you. You can also rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. Hit us with those 5 stars. Leave a few kind words. They would really go a long way to helping us out. We would be very grateful for the love. This has been awesome, Sammie. And until next week, I will talk to you.
I'll talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.